Well, hello once again. Welcome inside the Fantasy Champion Show. I'm Nick Anastos along with Bob Morin. It's the Week 12 Thanksgiving Holiday Edition. Bob, nothing better than football and food.
No, I'm getting ready for a feast. That's all I've been thinking about
And
all
a
day.
fantasy feast as well. Hopefully your season is alive and well. It's playoff push time for sure. This week typically is make or break week in a lot of ways. We'll preview the Week 12 schedule, but first, revisit briefly week number 11. What a week it was, Bob. Some shout-outs are in order.
Yeah, I'm going to start off with my shout-out as Lance Moore. Had him in the lineup this week. He's been lacking touchdowns, scored 2 touchdowns for me, helped me in my week. I want to give a shout-out to Lance Moore.
And how about Andre Johnson? I think he deserves some praise for what he was able to do. What was it, 150-some-odd yards and a couple touchdowns, right?
He had, I think, over 200 in a touchdown.
Did he end up with
over 200? He had a big game. It was well into the 200s.
Justin Blackman, the rookie, also 253 yards for Jacksonville. So some big-time wide receiver performances. We'll touch on them later on in the show as well. But first of all, pickups of the week. We start in Denver. Running back Willis McGahee out 4 to 8 weeks, probably the rest of your fantasy season.
Yeah.
Ronnie Hillman is the next up in charge. What do we know?
Yeah, I think Ronnie Hillman is the obvious choice, but let's not forget about Noshawn Moreno and Lance Ball, who are both there, who you never know who's going to step up here. So, Hillman's probably the obvious guy, like I said, the rookie. Shown some spurts last week filling in for McGahee. I thought he did pretty well. So
the question is he big enough, I think, to go inside at just 190 pounds? But he's been the third down back all year. He's proven he can block on passing downs, and he's dangerous in the flat. And he has that second gear as well. He can fly. So if you need to play him, go ahead. If you have other options, maybe consider. But he should be grabbed. He should be owned at this point.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick, impressive debut as a starting quarterback for the Niners in Week 11 against Chicago. Threw a couple of touchdown passes. Had some zip on some of those throws. At this point, the Niners still up in the air on their starting quarterback for Week 12. Will it be Kaepernick again, or do they go back to Alex Smith? Either way, Kaepernick, a guy that should be on a roster.
Yeah, I thought Kaepernick, he looked great. He had a lot of speed on the ball. He was in tune with his receivers. And he gives you that added element to his game, of being able to run. And I love that. And as a fantasy quarterback, anything you can get extra is always good. So, I would add him, not saying necessarily to go ahead and start him, but it's good to have him there, like you said.
How about in Jacksonville? The Jaguars nearly pulled off the impossible until they blew a fourth-quarter lead. They looked good against Houston before ultimately falling in overtime, but some major gaudy yards across the board in that matchup, including, as we mentioned, Justin Blackman. But he's probably owned at this point. Chad Henne available. Does he have enough in him for 2 in a row?
Yeah, and I don't know if he's going to have a big performance like he did last week. That was, I think he definitely overperformed to what people think for sure of him. This week, I would play him. We talked about it earlier, before coming here, and if you have a quarterback hurt and you need a guy, go with him. Why not? He has some explosive receivers, and I think he could be a good play.
Even against Tennessee?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Tennessee. They've been we've seen people tear them up all year. So.
All right, Cecil Shorts is a guy who was a waiver wire commodity a few weeks ago. Should probably have been on a roster at this point, but you expect a solid performance out of him as well in Week 12 against Tennessee. Sleeper back, probably available, Beanie Wells for Arizona. He comes back for the first time in a long time. Back in late September, he went on the IR designated to return list, and finally, he is designated to return this week. What do you expect from Beanie Wells?
Well, it's obviously going to take a little bit of time, I think, for him maybe to get back into the swing of things. I do like his matchup this week. I think
St. Louis?
Yeah, I think he should be able to run on St. Louis. Like I said, it's going to take a little bit of time, though. I don't expect a huge game out of him. Let's take Mendenhall's game. He came back, and let's put that into probably the same type of number. I think it's right around 10 points. If he got that, that would be more than I thought. You know what I mean? So I would say a realistic point for him would probably be about 6.
How many carries do you think he'll get?
Probably 12. I don't think they're gonna kill him out the gate, especially well, depending on the circumstance too. But Howling, LaRod Stevens Howlings, he's been running the ball well.
Certainly
so.
a good guy to own, though, if he's available in prospect.
A sleeper, like you said.
See what happens there. This is the Week 12 edition of the Fantasy Champion Show. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. We'll run over the schedule right now. Quarterback starts and sits. We begin with the Colts at the Bills. One quarterback, well, both quarterbacks really struggled a week ago in Luck and Fitzpatrick, but Luck, you think, is back amongst the weekly leaders this week. Yeah. Top 5, top 10 category.
Yeah, I don't even think he struggled that. He did struggle in the game sense, but as far as fantasy numbers go last week, I thought he put up a respectable game. And as
the first quarter helped him with the 2 touchdowns.
Exactly. And against the Bills, I think the sky's the limit. But we've seen the Bills show up too, so it's gonna be tough. But I think Luck's he looks like he's for real, and I like him a lot.
Another
guy, you can trust him.
Another guy you like is Andy Dalton, who is really off to a superb start.
Yeah, we talked about him last week.
Well, not start at this point. He's had a solid year since the beginning.
And we've seen him take care of the ball a little better too the past couple games, which is good to see, because that was his major problem going into the past couple weeks was the interceptions he had. I think once they went on the bye after the bye week, he's kind of found his own again, and he looks good. And AJ Green, having AJ Green, awesome.
Dallas hosting Washington on Thanksgiving. Tony Romo, 5-0 all-time on Thanksgiving. He's thrown 14 touchdown passes. And despite some real questionable throws a week ago against Cleveland, Dallas did find a way to win that football game. They're at home. You have, on the other side for the Redskins, RG3, a rookie, playing on short rest, big spotlight. I think there's more question marks on Washington's side of the ball. In that secondary as well, which has been substandard really all year, where I think Tony Romo is Tony Romo on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we should see that. Des Bryant has been playing awesome. He has Witten going, who seems healthy and ready to go. And then, obviously Austin's there. And Washington, like you said, they're banged up. But I expect that game to be it could be a shootout. RG3, they'll score some points. Yeah, exactly. He's going to score some points. He's another good start. I don't care about where Dallas's defense is ranked. I think this is a nationally televised game on Thanksgiving. I think the guns are going to be going, and it's going to be an offensive game.
All right, quarterback sits. How about Eli Manning? Has not thrown a touchdown pass in his last 3 starts, much to the chagrin of my partner over here. Taking on a Green Bay secondary that has been susceptible. He only has 12 touchdowns on the year, which surprised me when I took a look at it earlier today. They are coming off the bye. They are at home. What do you expect from Eli?
Yeah, I just don't like it. I don't think they're in sync right now, and their receivers have kind of been banged up. I think Victor Cruz has really been the only healthy one. Their whole team's actually been banged up at times. They haven't really been able to get on the same page, I feel, and I just think that Green Bay is going to come to play and prove to everybody that they are number 1 in Nick Anastos' power rankings.
That's correct.
So I think it'll be a good game, and I think Eli, he just hasn't shown me anything over the past 3 weeks that can actually go out and say, start this guy.
It's been
why would you?
It's been a long time since Eli had a good fantasy week. Yeah. So.
Well, hey, it makes me feel good to actually talk negative like this about the Giants. So.
All right, how about the Buccaneers? They struggled for basically 58 of the 60 minutes a week ago against the 2-win Carolina team before sneaking it out. Now, I'll give the Bucs and quarterback Josh Freeman credit for managing, first of all, to tie the game at the end of regulation and then win it on the road in overtime.
That was a great game.
That's impressive. But I still think there were enough red flags from Freeman through the first 3+ quarters.
Yeah, he's been one of those guys. He's shown the spurts, but he's still inconsistent. He's not a guy, I think, at this point of the season, if you're in contention, he's your starting quarterback.
Right.
I feel like he's probably, and they do that. At the end of the year, they'll show, what guys were on the most championship teams, and I bet if you looked at it, Freeman's probably not on a lot of, top 4 teams in leagues. So, I wouldn't feel confident in going with him this week.
All right, welcome back. It's the Fantasy Champion Show. Nick Anastos, Bob Morin. I was talking to the camera on the Zoom out there, I guess. We continue along. Week 12, the Thanksgiving edition. Running back starts. We're going to debate this one a little more closely. You like Vic Ballard against the Bills. Just noting, we'll discuss it later. How about Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis? He won the bet via Green Ellis after a strong performance a week ago, as the Bengals have now won 2 in a row.
Yeah, I just think the law firm, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, he gets the touches. And like I said, that's the most attractive thing about him is he's going to get the opportunity to do it, to put up the points. And clearly he gets, like I said, over 15 carries a game. I think he had 16 and catch or 2. So he is getting the touches. And, yeah, I roll with him against Oakland.
Speaking of Oakland, Marcel Reese, probably, if you thought this week to go grab him, you were disappointed because he was gone. Yeah. This was the hot pickup of 2 weeks ago.
We didn't talk about him because
didn't touch too much about him. Both you and I were kind of down on him, thought he was more of a traditional fullback, and the Raiders weren't going to look to really run the ball without Run DMC on the field. But, boy, he surprised pretty much everybody last week, going for close to 200 all-purpose yards.
Yeah.
What do you expect again this week?
Well, let's just make a little note here. Of those 2 games he's done well in, the past 2 games for Oakland, I feel like it's been garbage as far as they've been trailing. They're just dishing the ball off. So, yeah, that's good. But if Oakland ever finds a way to lead a game, who knows what his role will be, and, who knows what he's going to do. He's still not a guy I feel confident in, but if you need him, definitely go ahead and play him. And after the 2 weeks he's had, how can you sit him,
I can sit this guy, Reggie Bush, for the Dolphins. Miami has struggled over the last 3 games. I don't think it gets any better against Seattle. Bush, 8 yards on 8 carries on the ground in week number 11, Thursday night against Buffalo.
Yeah,
do they have time to figure it out, or is Reggie maybe a lost cause at this point?
Well, you would have thought last week going into the Bills game that Bush would have done well.
Right.
Coach Philbin sat him down. They talked before, during the week before the game, because he was benched the week before for Daniel Thomas, for fumbling. Mm-hmm. And you really thought Reggie Bush was going to come out motivated, and we would have seen Reggie Bush. But either something's wrong with him, or it's just the system right now is not for him, and he needs to take the back seat to Daniel Thomas. I don't like Reggie Bush at all. I've never been a huge fan, and I think last year was a flash in the pan.
Michael Turner, a guy you went out and made a midseason deal for.
Yeah, I know. You mention that every time we talk about Michael Turner.
I got to remind everyone that you were high on him, and now
it's not even that I was high on him. Nick, you know how I am in fantasy as far as I like my pieces, my players that are going to give me those points. He wasn't my number 1 back. He was going to be a bye week guy. Since I've had him, I probably started him about half the weeks I've owned him. So he's a guy, and he's worked out for me. I think 1 out of 3 weeks I've started him, he actually had a decent week. So, but yeah, I'm giving up on him though. He's not starting in my lineup this week. I would start, Vic Ballard over him and Ben Jarvis Green Ellis.
You got to like the fact though that he's the option around the goal line. Last week, for example, against Arizona, only 46 yards. Obviously, you're not pleased with that run production.
Yeah, no, he is.
He punches it in the second half at the 1-yard line.
But also to note, Jacquizz Rodgers was on the field more than him and had more touches than him this past week. So that's something to look at, and that's been trending. But the goal line, like you said, yeah, it is there. But Tony Gonzalez is there too, and I feel like they pass a lot on goal line or red zone opportunities. So.
And besides,
he's not like he used to be, and you know that as far as the short yardage goes, his percentages are way down. So.
By the way, they are playing Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay is the best in the NFL against the run. So that seems like an obvious sit, at least for this week, for Michael Turner. This week is Week 12 on the Fantasy Champion Show. Check us out on Facebook. Post your questions. We'll read them live right on the air and hope to help you out down the stretch with the playoffs looming. Wide receivers starting this week. How about Denario Alexander, a guy you and I talked about last week?
Yeah.
He came through. In fact, has been on fire over the last 3 weeks. 15 catches, 291 yards, and 3 TDs over the course of those 3 games. For a Charger team that has been struggling overall, Alexander has been a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, he's been Phillip Rivers' main man. He's been outproducing, everybody there, even Antonio Gates. Alexander's been getting the targets, and doesn't matter. San Diego's good or bad. This guy's going to produce. I think he is for real. We've seen him before have flashes where he could be really good if he stays healthy. And he's given the opportunity.
He's a big guy, too, on the outside.
And I really like him, and I think if you can still grab him, I doubt he's available. Grab him, and I would start him this week.
All right, here's a guy who I think needs to be started every week, and it's basically common knowledge at this point, Randall Cobb for the Green Bay Packers. Now, I know people are hesitant Cobb owners may be hesitant when hearing the news that Jennings is coming back and back, but at this point, you got to expect that he's still earned his share of the targets at this point. He's earned Aaron Rodgers' trust at this point to still be a major part of the attack plan for Green Bay, whether or not Jennings returns or continues to sit.
Well, they have no running game, and Randall Cobb basically is their running game, even though he's not coming out of the backfield all the time. You know, he's one of those guys, and that's trending in the NFL. All the good teams have a guy like Randall Cobb. You know, now like Wes Welker would be, I guess, our Patriots, or Woodhead, I guess, something like that. You know, comparable.
Harvin.
Yeah, you're kind of your utility player, I guess. I don't know if you want to call him that, but and he's been his most.
He's a deep threat as
he is
well.
Everything he can do.
Speedster.
I was saying he can play like everything. You know, I'm saying
Right,
as far
right.
as positions go, this guy can play everything. He probably could even play quarterback. You know, so I love him, and we've been on his bandwagon all season. So. Definitely, he deserves his props for sure.
All right, here's a guy that may or may not deserve his props after only catching one ball for 4 yards last week, but that's the Raiders' Denarius Moore. I think, first of all, there's going to be a lot of points scored in this Raiders-Bengals game. I think Cincinnati's secondary has been prone to struggle, and the Raiders, again, will throw it early and often. Moore just too good to be held down, I think, again. He's 6'5", he's long, he's athletic, he's a red zone threat, and up until last week had really put a torch to the league over the better part of the season. I think he comes back big time this week with the Raiders. Denarius Moore owners, don't fret, pop him back in.
What would you say for an estimated point total for Moore, you think, as a projection?
I think 95 to 100 yards and a touchdown is 50-50, so I'd say probably the ceiling is about 16.
So you think maybe a more realistic, about 13 points, maybe projection?
That sounds fair to me.
Yeah,
I'd be
saying
happy with
under.
that.
I'm saying he's going to be definitely under that.
Oh, so we're going to have another bet then.
Yeah, I want to make a bet right now because
At
I was just
13?
thinking about it, the way Cincinnati's played the past couple weeks.
Well, they shut the Giants down, but the Giants have been struggling overall.
Yeah, but we've seen games where Victor Cruz has torn apart people. You know, I feel, and Knicks was playing, and then this past week I know Kansas City is nothing. You know, but still we didn't see anybody shine for receivers in that game. You know, their tight end was the only guy that really did anything. I think he's going to be under that. I would even say he's going to be under 10.
All right. Well, that's bet number one for the evening. We'll take a look at bet number two.
But hey,
later
it would
on
be a
in the show.
decent play. You know, he could get around the 8, 9 points if he needs somebody. But I don't think I'm just not as high as on him as you are.
All right, we move along to the tight end position here on the Fantasy Champion Show with Nick Anastos and Bob Morin. Here's a guy who's been solid all year, and that's Jermaine Grissom. Started slowly, first 2 weeks of the season, 30-some-odd yards in each game, but after that, he has been dynamite, including last week where he played well.
Yep.
8th-ranked tight end in ESPN standard leagues, and that's been really below the radar. I think you give him the thumbs up the rest of the way. They use him. You mentioned versatility and how different teams needed a player like Randall Cobb. Maybe not size-wise, but in terms of how they use him over the field and in different aspects of the passing game, I think for the Bengals, Jermaine Grissom may be that guy.
Yeah, I know Jermaine Gresham. He's an athlete.
He's an athlete.
He is a good player. He's had some off-field issues, which for me, I usually don't let that affect it. But for some reason, this guy I'm not too high on just because of off-field. I just don't like him, and he's not going to be on any of my teams. I have some guys that I just don't really like, and I don't want them. So
It's just for no reason, just
no,
hating, just hating for no reason.
There's a few reasons, and you know, we don't need to get into it, but it's just I don't prefer him.
All right, well here's.
But I do think all your points are valid, and I do think he will have a good game because he is part of their offense as far as.
So we have the rational versus the irrational.
Yeah, I was being a little. I just wanted to make that note of that. I'm not a huge fan of him.
All right, here's a guy you are a fan of, Dallas Clark,
Yeah.
who's been coming on.
Yeah, he's been doing well. You know, he's had back-to-back games with touchdowns,
Including
three
the
out of
game
five
winner.
games
The game
too,
winner for Tampa,
which was huge.
over Carolina in
Yeah,
overtime.
he's been playing well, and maybe he just needed some time to maybe he's still injured, you know, to heal a little bit, and we've seen him. He's looking good.
Another name you like, Dustin Keller, Thursday night Thanksgiving game against the Pats for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
With the Patriots.
But that is
difficulty
getting
up
better.
until last week, right? It's getting better of defending the
Well,
middle
I
of the
still
field.
think the tight end should be all right. And Keller, we've seen Keller have good games
Yeah.
against the Pats. So.
Yeah. sits Brent Selleck, and that's because of Nick Foles. You're not impressed.
I saw what I saw last week, and you know what? I apologize for making a statement about Selleck possibly having a good game last week because nobody on that team had a chance to have really a good game.
Right.
He was Foles was awful, and yeah, I would just say stay away from that until you can see some improvement in that offense.
Well, what about a guy like Brandon Pettigrew? He's been, I think, more up than down for the Lions in a dangerous pass offense, but you say proceed with caution tomorrow against Houston.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I feel like he's either boom or bust. He has the over 10 or he has like under 4. But, this week is a tricky play with Titus Young being benched. Who knows? It could help him out.
Could be an uptick in targets.
Who knows, what's going to happen with that. But I think Houston, their defense is for real. Last week struggled. Mercedes Lewis scored a couple touchdowns, but that's really all he had. I feel like, it could have been a much different game if he hadn't gotten in the end zone. So.
All right, so our bet, to recap, Bob did win last week. We had the over-under set at 10 fantasy points for Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. He accomplished that with a touchdown, and how many yards did he finish with?
He had about 100, 102
so
on the ground, and then he had about 10 in the air.
Okay, so he had 16, 17 points.
Yeah.
I had been up 10 or 100 fantasy bucks is what we're doing.
So now
we're back to even.
Yeah.
And this week's bet, upping the ante a little bit, 13 points is the over-under for Denarius Moore of the Raiders. I have it over. Oakland is in Cincinnati. Bob has the under. And do we have a bonus bet here?
Yes, we do.
We have Vic Ballard versus Buffalo. And that we're going to keep at 10, the over-under at 10.
Yep.
I'm going to take the Bills, and here's why. Yes, Buffalo has really struggled against the run all season, except for last week when finally that front four looked not only good, but they looked scary, bottling up the Miami Dolphins all game long. Maybe, just maybe, the Bills have turned the corner. That's why I'm going to take the under with Vic Ballard for the Colts. That game is in Indianapolis.
Okay, that makes a difference, too. I think last week Buffalo was all jazzed up in front of their home crowd. They don't get many people down there unless it's a Patriots
Yes, they do. They sell out every night.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just
every game they're selling out.
As far as fans being into the games, they really haven't anything to cheer for. That was a nationally televised game. People were up for it, So I'm going to go Vic Ballard, though. This week definitely plus 10. I think he's going to have let's say a minor coming out party. I would even say he gets into the 13, 14, 15-point range.
So 90 and a touch.
Yeah.
Out of your mind.
Maybe not even a touchdown, because this guy has only one touchdown on the year. I think he's going to get some yards. He's good out of the backfield catching the ball, and he's good running the ball.
Well, we'll see.
I like what I see in Vic Ballard, and I think we're going to have a nice back for years to come.
All right. That is it for the Week 12 Holiday Edition. Happy Thanksgiving from the Fantasy Champions Show. And before we go, we need to express what we are thankful for in the 2012 fantasy football season. I'll go first, and it's my quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. I know I stole your idea, but Rodgers took a lot of criticism over the month of September after what was a slow start by his standards, facing really back-to-back-to-back top-quality defenses, and it took him a while to get acclimated to the injuries and get that offensive unit rolling again. But now that it is rolling again, Rodgers is back to peak performance, 27 touchdown yards. He's top 3 in basically every passing category, including quarterback rankings at this point. He has kept me competitive week in and week out, despite the fact that the Who's have a 5-6 record at this point. I am thankful that Aaron Rodgers in 2012 was healthy and playing well for the Green Bay Packers and the Hempstead Hooer Killers.
I'm going to go, obviously, I'm going to touch base on a quarterback, but I'm thankful for Arian Foster. He's been my backbone on one of my teams this year, except for a hiccup last week. He pretty much had a solid season going. Very thankful to own him, and then he's on my team. And then obviously Tom Brady, who's been pretty much not a lifelong, but he's been on my team since he's been relevant. He's got
21 touchdowns in 10 games.
I'm thankful for him over his whole career, though, and this season. And without those two, I wouldn't be where I am today. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
All right, happy Thanksgiving for MC The Brick and our friends here at the Castle Hill Media Studios. My friend Bob Morin, I'm Nick Anastos, saying happy Thanksgiving. Good luck this weekend, and we'll see you next week on the Fantasy Champions Show.